I still remember the summer I spent at my uncle's cabin deep in the woods. He had always talked about the tranquility of the forest, how it became a sanctuary from the chaos of life. However, once I arrived and settled in, I realized there was something unsettling about the place. The trees seemed to whisper secrets, and every gust of wind carried an air of melancholy. I had a few friends with me, Sam, Lily, and Jake. We were excited to explore, but even their laughter felt faint beneath the heavy canopy. There was a lake nearby, a silent mirror reflecting the jagged outlines of the trees, but we were too uneasy to venture that far. On our first night, we sat around the fire, sharing ghost stories. I recalled a tale I had stumbled upon online about a couple who went camping and heard strange noises at night. They claimed the images returned in their dreams, twisted faces staring back at them, filled with unexplainable rage. My friends chuckled nervously, but a knot formed in my stomach.
As the flames flickered, shadows darted between the trees. I tried to convince myself it was just imagination, but the feeling of being watched crept up my spine. We decided to turn in early, splitting up into pairs. Jake and I took the loft, while Sam and Lily settled in the other room below. Just as I was drifting off, I heard a soft knock, like a twig breaking. I dismissed it, thinking it was just the wind, but then I heard it again, a soft scrape against the walls. My heart raced, and I glanced at Jake, who seemed deeply asleep. I slipped out of bed and tiptoed towards the window, peering out into the dark. The moonlight bathed the woods in its eerie glow, and for a moment, I thought I saw a figure. Tall, thin, and almost skeletal, standing motionless among the trees. I blinked, and it was gone. My breath caught in my throat as I tried to shake off the fear. The next morning, Jake and I were woken by frantic knocks on our door. Sam and Lily burst in, eyes wide with terror. They claimed they heard someone crying in the night. It chilled me to the bone. We all dismissed it as a prank or a figment of our imagination, but the unease lingered. Determined to confront the unknown, we hiked through the forest, retracing our steps to the lake. The silence was deafening, interrupted only by the sound of leaves crunching beneath our feet. As we reached the shore, the water looked more still than ever. Except I noticed something strange, a faint ripple, as if something was submerged but just out of sight. Suddenly, a splashing noise erupted. We turned, hearts pounding, but it was only a deer, startled and fleeing from our presence. Laughing nervously to ease the tension, we decided to explore a little further. However, the laughter faded when we stumbled upon an old, rusted axe stuck in a fallen tree. Its handle was weathered and splintered. Jake touched it, and a chill ran through him. He dropped it quickly, as if burned.
"This place gives me the creeps," Lily muttered, glancing over her shoulder. We decided to head back, but on our way, we noticed an old path leading deeper into the woods. The curiosity gnawed at us. What lay hidden on that path? We took it, drawn by an unseen force, until we reached a clearing. There, in the center, was an old, decrepit cabin. Its windows were boarded up like soulless eyes. The wind howled as we approached, and the floor creaked ominously beneath our feet when we stepped inside. Darkness cloaked the room, but the air felt strangely alive, pulsating with an energy that made our skin crawl. Muffled whispers echoed off the walls, speaking an ancient tongue. Panic surged within me. We turned to leave, but the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder and shadows started to dance on the walls. They morphed into twisted faces, menacing and filled with longing. "Let us out!" Sam screamed, pounding on the door.
In that moment, Jake noticed something out of the corner of his eye, a reflection in the shattered mirror hanging crookedly on the wall. It wasn't our faces staring back. Instead, a dark figure stood behind us, its eyes hollow, its mouth wide in a silent scream. We all turned in unison, but it was gone.
We bolted to the door trying to pry it open, and just when the whispers reached a deafening crescendo, the door swung wide. We stumbled out, gasping for air, drowning in relief. As we made our way back to the cabin, a chilling realization set in. Sam stopped abruptly, turning pale. "Where's Jake?" He was nowhere to be seen. We called for him until our voices went hoarse, but only silence answered. An oppressive heaviness hung in the air. As dusk descended, we returned to the cabin, hope dwindling. The last light faded, and the shadows encroached upon our reality. In the stillness, a soft knock echoed through the dark, gentle, familiar, yet impossibly wrong. "Jake?" I whispered, heart racing. But the silence stretched, and the whispers returned, this time bearing his voice. It mingled with something far worse, a sinister laughter rising from the depths of the hungry forest. We stood frozen, eyes darting between the murky darkness and the trembling door. Jake's voice seemed trapped, spun into the fabric of the night. "Help! I'm here!" it called, only to be swallowed by the unyielding silence. "Do you hear him?" Lily's voice broke, panic snapping through her words. I couldn't discern if it was truly him or if the forest was manifesting our fears. "Jake!" I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. That tease of familiarity pulled me toward the door, but a sudden surge of instinct held me back, an invisible boundary encasing my mind. Sam grabbed my arm, eyes wide and wild. What if it isn't him? But the doubt was too close to comfort. We can't just leave him. With shaking hands, I flung the door open, and the night swallowed us whole. The forest felt alive, and every sound resonated with a subtle malice. Icy fingers crawled down my spine. We stumbled into the labyrinth of trees, but each step felt like a descent deeper into forgetfulness. It was as if the woods themselves conspired against us. "Jake!" we shouted in unison, our voices tinkling across the eerie void. As we ventured further, the air grew heavier, saturated with a damp, musty odor. I glanced at Sam and Lily, their expressions reflecting the same fear clawing at my mind. The trees bowed over us, tilting inwards, seeming to close off our exit. It was as if the forest was alive, hungry for something that had slipped away from its clutches. And then we heard it, a soft rustling behind the thicket, a fleeting sound of branches snapping underfoot. "Jake?" I called again, heart hammering painfully against my ribs. Another whisper echoed in the distance, this time clearer, garbled but unmistakably human. "Help me, I can't." It faded, blending seamlessly into an unsettling laughter. I stumbled backward, colliding with Lily, who tightly gripped my arm. "We shouldn't be here. We need to go back," she cried. Sam nodded, but the forest seemed to pulsate around us, drawing us deeper. Before we could turn, something moved, swathed in shadows. Something tall, more elongated than any natural creature. A face emerged from the darkness, contorted into a grimace, though shrouded in obscurity. "Help him," it hissed, dripping with malice. "He's waiting for you." The air crackled as it spoke, and a pulse of dread flooded through me. I wanted to scream, but no words came. Something unnatural beckoned us, illuminated by a sickly glow spilling out from the depths of the woods. "Stay back," Sam yelled, but the figure merely smiled. Its empty, gaping maw stretched wide. It reached a skeletal hand toward us. In that moment, a wild rush of instinct kicked in. I turned, dragging Lily behind me, and we barreled through the trees. Branches whipped at our faces as we ran, desperation fueling our flight. Finally, we burst into another clearing, the same one we had been drawn to before. The oppressive air hung thick with dread. The old cabin loomed ominously ahead. "Where's Jake?" I gasped between breaths. But Sam's expression was one of pure horror. He was right behind us, Sam cried. But there was no one. The darkness stretched like a chasm, swallowing every sound, every possible trace of humanity. We were trapped, huddled together, the forest squeezing in closer. With every heartbeat, the whispers intensified around us. I felt like we were standing at the edge of some ancient truth, something vile, waiting to consume us. Then we heard it again, the familiar laughter, rolling through the night like thunder. Help! It wasn't just Jake's voice anymore. It had morphed, blending with something twisted, like tendrils of smoke. It rose in pitch, a cacophony of voices laughing and weeping all at once. The forest erupted with its cacophony. The trees themselves seemed to shudder in response. "Jake?" I cried out, but the only answer was the sound of our own pounding hearts. Then the door of the cabin creaked open, a gaping maw, inviting yet repulsive. "Come inside," called a voice, soft and melodic yet laced with dread. "He's just waiting for you." It was beckoning, a siren's call to the end. Frozen in terror, we could only look at each other, eyes wide and terror-stricken. Together, we took a step back. But the world around us began to twist. The trees leaned in, their bark splintering as faces emerged. Mouthless screams drowned in the darkness. We were trapped in a dance of despair, the whispers now a symphony of madness. That cabin, throbbing with a life of its own, drew us into its embrace. As if sensing our resolve cracking, the laughter crescendoed, echoing through the forest. It mocked our feeble attempts to escape. It closed in around us, a net woven from nightmare and sorrow. All at once, the woods shushed, silence reigniting the air. Breath caught, we turned, and in the darkest corner of our vision, a flicker caught my eye. A pale shape, silhouetted against the moonlight. "I'm sorry," it whispered, barely audible. The pain echoed in that simple sentence, carried on the winds of horror. Then it lunged at us, a grotesque figure of limbs and shadows. And just like that, we were lost to the forest's embrace. Days, weeks, years, the passage of time became irrelevant. We found ourselves trapped in that eternal cycle, feeding the whispers with our fear and regret. No one ever came looking. The cabin remained, its walls echoing with the laughter of those who fell prey. Lost souls wandered there, drawn to darkness like moths to a flame. And if you listen carefully on a moonless night, you might still hear the echoes of our voices, faint remnants of what was once human, whispering warnings to anyone foolish enough to tread into those woods.